President Biden is now the first sitting president to commemorate Indigenous Peoples Day. The president issued a proclamation saying October 11th is a day to celebrate and recognize Indigenous communities and cultures. It also states, quote, "For generations, federal policies systematically sought to assimilate and displace Native people and eradicate Native cultures. And we recommit to supporting a new, brighter future of promise and equity for tribal nations." Today is also Columbus Day, a holiday officially celebrated for more than 80 years. The White House responded to questions about scrapping Columbus Day from the calendar.
Today is both Columbus Day, as of now, and this is why you're asking the question, as well as Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not aware of any discussion of ending that, either of ending the prior federal holiday at this point.
For more on this, I want to bring in Shaun Chapoose. He is the tribal chairman of the Ute Tribe. Shaun, welcome. It's great to have you with us. So what do you make of what you just heard from the White House press secretary there? Is there room for both Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day to fall on the same date in the calendar?
Well, I think it would be in the best interest of all of us if we were to separate them. For the simple fact, Columbus was one part of the history of discovery, but Native American tribes themselves, I think, would warrant their own day of recognition, since they predate pretty much everybody else, in my opinion. But until that does happen, the fact that he's acknowledged Indigenous tribes is a step forward in the discussion.
That's a good suggestion. Any ideas on what would be the optimal day to celebrate Indigenous people? Is there a particular day in the calendar that is important in your culture, for instance?
Well, there again, I think the discussion that always gets lost kind of is talking to one tribal leader and taking their words or their suggestions and running with it creates kind of the whole confusion I think all tribal leaders have. I think if the Biden administration continues to be supportive of Indigenous people and reaches out to them collectively, I think you could get a broad consensus from all tribes because, every tribe is unique as far as their cultural identity, their traditional practices. So, I don't think I would be in a position to recommend or specify specific, but I think reaching out to all the tribal communities, tribes would be in the best interest of the president, and you would probably get some unity in declaring what day or what we'd like to have reflect us as Indigenous people.
Right, and looking at Columbus Day, as controversial as it has become in modern time, the holiday is pretty much seen by many Italian Americans now as a celebration of their culture. So from your perspective, is there some validity to keeping that celebration intact?
Well, I think it's Thanksgiving or Columbus Day, whatever you want to call them, kind of depicts a narrative from one point of view. So, I'm not against them. I understand, they probably have reverence for the man, but there's another side to that discussion, what it brought, what it created. I think as long as you're having honest discussions or honest portrayal of the events, it is history, I think, and you have to understand that there's two sides to this history. So, I wouldn't want to be offensive to, them people, but at the same time, there were consequences due to that interaction. So I think we just really got to be truthful when we talk about Columbus Day, Indigenous Day, anything pertaining to history in general. We just need to have a full, forthright presentation of true history.
Right. We have to embrace the entirety of the history. And so, as I'm sure you're aware, President Biden is restoring protections for two national monuments that are sacred to tribal nations. Let's listen for a moment to Interior Secretary Deb Haaland's reaction last week during the announcement. Let's listen.
We are here today on the ancestral homelands of the Anacostan and Piscataway people, bending the arc of the moral universe toward justice. Thank you, Mr. President, for the profound action you are taking today to permanently protect the homelands of our ancestors. Our songs, our languages, and our cultures.
It's very moving to hear the Secretary of the Interior there. Clearly, she is obviously emotional about this, and you also were a big part of the fight to challenge former President Trump's reduction of Bear Ears National Monument. So what is your reaction to this news?
Well, I think we're grateful that the president was able to reestablish the previous boundary for the simple fact, I mean, there were vast resources of cultural antiquities, sacred sites that were diminished when then President Trump shrunk the monument. So, I think we're all grateful and appreciative of what he's done. What I think we're waiting to see now, though, is how do you move into this new era of co-management? Because that was one of the big discussions that was brought up in the original proclamation. Co-management, how Native American tribes can participate in that process and what they bring to the table. So, like her, when she was out in Bluff, that time we did meet, her being a Native American herself, it's something I think not everybody understands, but land, traditional lands, areas where your ancestors have been buried hold a deep reverence for us as Native Americans. And, we have to do everything in our power to protect that, and I think she reflects that. And, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that her being appointed as the secretary was a great event also for Native American tribes. We have somebody now who's there, who's able to talk to us. And one of the things I pointed out was, I met with previous interior directors, and it's always been a hard conversation to have with them because you're bringing a cultural identity or a mindset based off of generational ties to this land, and you're trying to communicate that to people, and it's hard to get all that information put out to them where they understand. But I think with her, we had a better opportunity since she was and is Native American to really have a real candid and honest discussion with her. So, but we are thankful. I'm thankful. I thought, it's been a long fight. 6 years of this, it can become pressing after a while.
Well, we are thankful that you are speaking us today. Shaun Chapoose, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.